Hi there, this is John Drew from Elevated Planet and the Twiglet Zone. The Twiglet Zone is the place we put the stories that will likely test the boundaries of your reality. The information I put out there represents my truth, but it is for you to decide whether it is your truth or deluded nonsense. I would urge you to keep your mind open and keep the information stored in case things happen that could cause you to reconsider your version of reality. If that does happen, do not try to cling to your now outdated version. Instead, fearlessly awaken to a new truth and let that empower you. We are, after all, so much more than we have been encouraged to believe. So here we go. Fantastical tales accompanied by a savory snack. This is the Twiglet Zone. This is not hearsay. This is not a conspiracy. This is not far-right propaganda. This is fact, and it is truthful. This is just one quote from today's Twiglet Zone. Today we present you with David E. Martin, Ph.D., biological warfare specialist who held that role for the US government in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Jesse Beltran, who is a TSCM Certified Investigator, a leading expert on anomalous frequency analysis. And then we have Mark Sexton, a retired police constable from the United Kingdom. And what do all these people have in common? They are about to present evidence to you that may well test the boundaries of your reality. The evidence presented explains how and why COVID was created, what the implications of that are for everyone who received a COVID vaccine, and how law enforcement and the judiciary and the governments were all complicit in bringing this to the masses. As ever, don't take our word for it, dig deeper, question everything, then make up your own mind. If you find value in what you see, please like and share this video. This is important information to get out to the masses.
Let's be clear. And there's a big difference. I'm not alleging anything. They actually went to the trouble of telling us that it was going to be the Wuhan virus that was going to get us. As you see on the right-hand side of the screen, published in 2016, March 14th of 2016, the SARS-like Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1, and I quote, is poised for human emergence. Does that sound like we're just surprised that something in Wuhan went a little haywire in December of 2019? Or does it feel like we were told, look at Wuhan, and look at coronavirus, and look at what we've been doing to manipulate coronavirus in Wuhan and in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and lo and behold, we're going to go ahead and tell you that we're ready to release it in 2016. Next slide. We're almost done. And then they created it. Now, all of you know that I am criticized globally for my use of the term biological warfare. I do that because I am credentialed to do that. I happen to be, for the United States government, in the early part of the 2000s and the latter part of the 90s, a person who was sent around the world to look at the proliferation of biological and chemical weapons. I'm acutely familiar with the definition of what a biological warfare agent is in the 18 U.S. Code, the criminal code of violations of biological and chemical weapons. And so my assessment is, in fact, professional and right. And the reason for that is I'm the one credentialed to make that determination for the United States government for many years. That's why I say it. But let's pretend for the moment that I'm just a nut job. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So why don't we look at what the criminals said themselves, shall we? In 2005, at a conference sponsored by DARPA and the MITRE Corporation, Ralph Baric, the architect of the lethal strand that has been injected into millions and billions of people's arms, that Ralph Baric was sponsored to present the following, and let's go ahead and use his words, presentation: synthetic coronaviruses, biohacking, bio-warfare enabling technologies. Does that sound like a public health distribution program? Does that sound like something that is accidentally misinterpreted to mean something else? Or does biological warfare enabling technologies sound like not countermeasures or pandemic preparedness? It sounds to me like biological warfare enabling technologies. And the reason why I have that hunch is what followed was he received, next to his NIAID grants, non-competitive DARPA grants in matching funds for over $140 million of aggregate funding going into his and his related programs on synthetic biological warfare enabling technologies. So do I have a problem calling the injection a biological warfare enabling technology? Absolutely not, because that's what they called it. And we know that they knew they called it that on September 18th, 2019. Because on September 18th, 2019, the racketeering, co-conspiring cabal of interlocking directorates, also known as the World Health Organization, said that they were going to conduct an experience for the world that was going to be a rapidly spreading pandemic due to a lethal respiratory pathogen. The lethality in that statement is the problem. They didn't say we're going to maybe get a little bit of sniffles going around. They said we were going to actually have the promulgation of a deadly agent. And the stated reason, in September 2020, the progress indicator is that the world would accept a universal vaccine. Not, we'll look at other options of treatment. Not, we'll have a look at what might be early intervention, as Dr. McCullough has so clearly advocated for in many, many, many instances. Not that. We stated on September 18th, 2019, we were intending to kill. And we were intending to kill to create the fear that would drive people to accept something that without coercion, no one would have accepted. And that's published by the criminal racketeers. Next slide, and there's only 2 to go if you're following. Deploy and profit from it. We were told investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process, and lo and behold, guess what they saw? Profit at the end of the process. 2022, $100 billion for Pfizer of public funds. Moderna, after lying to the Congress in October of 2020 when they were asked to actually verify whether NIAID was promoting an injection that would enrich NIAID, where Anthony Fauci and the entire team at NIH said that they had no financial interest in their recommendation, they receive a back payment royalty of $400 million for the first payment of the royalty. $400 million. More than any Institute of Health has ever received in a single payment for a single invention in the history of American medical research. And lo and behold, what do we receive after that? A request from the World Health Organization to expand its budget by 11% to make sure that the people who profited from it donate to it. And guess what they just did? They laundered the money right back. That's what they did. Next, and now you get the final slide. This is not a public health crime. This is actually not a constitutional crime. This is a criminal act done by a criminal institution established to enable criminal behavior since its foundation in 1947. That is what this is. And we should not be debating the merits of democracy or liberty or anything else, as irrational as that would be if we stood at a bank robbery and debated the merits of printing dollar bills. The problem is not the dollar bills, it's the bank robber. And the problem here is not health, and it's not public health, and it's not the suppression of information and the suppression of dissident views. and the absolute unconscionable treatment of physicians around the world and academicians around the world who spoke out against this, that's not the crime. The crime is that we had criminal racketeers who conspired and developed a, quote, emergency. The same criminal racketeers planned, manufactured, and did all agency capture to make sure that you were told that you would use terms that they tell you to use: vaccine, face mask, health, social distancing, none of which had ordinary use definition. So we just used them. Criminal racketeers price fixed with interlocking directorates where known competitors came together and fixed prices in direct collusion, in violation of both European Union standards and in violation of both the Sherman and the Clayton Act in the United States. These were crimes. It was organized crime, and we should treat it as such. Criminal racketeers publicly lied under oath, and this resulted in the death and destruction of liberty, and most importantly, the death and destruction of the integrity of well-meaning people who sit here today doing everything they can within their power to try to treat the calamities created by this catastrophe. I will not for a moment denigrate the multiple contributions of amazing academic and medical professionals who've tried desperately to step into the gap and stop the corrupt outcomes of these crimes. But I will, without doubt, say the following. Until we treat this as a criminal conspiracy of criminal racketeers resulting in global terrorism for the purpose of profiteering and murder, until we have that conversation, we're having the wrong conversation. Because we are not here to debate the merits of a modified agreement for a criminal racketeering organization. We are here to end the criminal organization itself. This is my call to every single person on this planet. Don't just limit the power of the WHO. Destroy the WHO.
Well, it turns out Havana syndrome is real, and our next guest has been documenting it for years. But then after the COVID vaccine rollout, suddenly he started noticing incredible similarities, increases in complaints coming forward that 100% were identical to what he was seeing with Havana syndrome. He's featured in a new documentary that might be the most mind-blowing report we've ever seen on the COVID vaccine. It looks at the shots in our bodies almost acting as transmitters, broadcasting signals. And one of the most eye-opening scenes from the trailer shows signals being received, and then the camera pans back and you realize the signals are coming from underground, 6 feet underground, in the corpses in the graveyard. People that had taken the shot, now dead, but still sending a signal. Watch.
Way back in 1778, the Continental Congress unanimously passed America's first whistleblower law.
I did this clearly at my own jeopardy.
It recognized the duty to give the earliest information to Congress of any misconduct, frauds, or misdemeanors committed by anyone working for government.
The information I'm presenting is made as a protected communication under Title 10 U.S.C. 1034 as a whistleblower.
246 years later, whistleblowers have an incredible record of changing the course of history.
In late October of 2019, I was approached by leadership. There were 5 clients and there was a vendor in the room. The vendor was BioNTech. These are the notes that I took during the conversation of the meeting with the stakeholders for the contact tracing application. It took the fabric of my reality and just roughed me. I mean, it just made me question everything.
Government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize
upload complete
total biometric surveillance.
It's always the data. It's the crack cocaine of Silicon Valley. We are already living inside the architecture of totalitarianism.
We need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin.
I know my husband is not vaccinating people and putting a microchip in her arm because that technology doesn't even exist and he's never uttered the words out of his mouth, so.
Microchips and tracking devices are embedded in the vaccine. Is this accurate?
We have 6 MAC addresses that are pulsing Bluetooth signals, and all we are is surrounded by tombstones.
So can someone explain to me why we're getting EMF emissions off a grave inside of a Faraday cage, please?
So we've seen the reports of individuals having unlicensed MAC addresses post-vaccination. I've seen evidence of that myself.
One of the requirements that just changed the entire course of the conversation and frankly my life, that's when Lipid Nano came into the conversation.
These are not vaccines, these are not biological. As you go through the patent in section 219, it explains how they are self-assembled nanoparticles, and they're fully programmable.
From a technical perspective, if I can retrieve data, I can send data.
DARPA calls it transhumanism.
I mean, can you hear what I just said and not want to just step away?
Blood samples aren't supposed to have blinking lights, but there they are. They're little dots. They move across the slide, and they're blinking. This was brain tissue that had been sitting in a jar of formalin for 6 months.
Even if the body dies, they continue.
Yes, apparently.
All of your biometric data, your location, your privacy, it's gone. If you took the vaccine, you are the router. You are a communication device.
Jesse Beltran is a TSCM Certified Investigator, one of the nation's leading specialists in anomalous frequency analysis and Havana syndrome-related phenomenon for over 20 years. Of course, this has led him to the COVID vaccine, and Jesse joins us now. Thank you so much.
But really what we all need to do is bind together. Because if we do not stop this now, just think about this. Before, it only took 50 years to change a generation's perspective. Now with the advent of AI, supercomputing, quantum computing, Moore's law has been superseded. It has been broken. Instead of seven years, we're now exponentially increasing our technology. And when we're integrating AI into this, and Dr. Giordano, who is a world-leading expert on this technology, completely talks about AI being integrated with this. Elon Musk says that we're creating an AI god. There's a command and control video that we sent you. It's important that you show that to the listeners, because ultimately that is what they're trying to implement. Total control, total slavery. You don't conform. Your digital resources are cut off from you. You can't buy food, water, you can't pay bills. You can't access any monetary anything in order to buy anything because you just aren't following the system.
The Central Command Platform gives key decision makers easy access to advanced surveillance options. Using the icons at the top, we can toggle the visibility of the subjects we want to view. We'll tap the human icon to activate their visibility. This gives us a real-time view of all the subjects in our jurisdiction. Let's use the search bar to find a specific subject. Here, we can search by typing in the name of a subject or search with an image of the subject's face. First, let's try typing in the name of our subject. In this case, there were 2 people with the same name found in our jurisdiction. We can tap a subject's live location to see more details. We can now see the live location and source details of the person we tapped on, with options to see more details to help us determine if this is our subject. To search by face, let's say we have an image of the subject. We can source this from a surveillance integration or by manually uploading an image. Using face search, we can find the exact person who matches the face of our subject. Let's say our subject is suspected of committing a crime last night. We can use the AI chat to see where he was at the time of the crime. The chat will respond and show us the exact location on the map. Let's say we have a crime report that tells us the suspect fled the scene at 9:30. Let's use the timeline tool to go to exactly 9:30. We can see that it matches the report. He's leaving the bar. Let's see where he is right now by using the timeline tool to go back to live. We can use the chat to automate the next steps, such as requesting an arrest warrant and sending units to the area once we receive it. The chat will automatically create an action plan and execute the plan for you as soon as you give the approval. It'll notify the relevant parties, execute according to your department's protocol, and custom integrations with your current services, allowing you to keep your jurisdiction safe and secure right from the palm of your hand with the central command platform.
That is what they're facing, and this is why it's important that we share this.
I mean, it sounds like the Matrix, you know, you're plugged in. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. The idea that someone somewhere at a dashboard is saying, we're going to flip on, we're going to flip these individuals on right now in Memphis, Tennessee. Over here in Salt Lake City, there's a group of 100 individuals. We're going to turn those guys on today, and they're going to start to experience these symptoms. I mean, it sounds insane.
Good morning, it's Friday the 28th of November 2025. My name is Mark Sexton, a retired police constable from Birmingham. This is a very important video, and attached is an incredibly important letter. This letter exposes a nationwide coordinated criminal subverting of the Constitution, the rule of law, and poses a significant national security breach. And it must be made available to every member of the public, and this is what we're going to do now. In March of 2024, a video was circulating where people went into a police station in Scotland. That video, Janie Walsh and Moira Brown, was approximately 1.5 minutes. In that video, it states clearly by the two police constables that the Assistant Chief Constable, Alan Spears, gave a directive in January of 2022 not to accept any evidence of COVID or the vaccines. As a result of that very important video, a Freedom of Information request has uncovered an executive order not to accept any evidence of crimes relating to vaccines and COVID, and that was from Police Scotland. This is the key that unlocks everything. This was obtained, and I have to acknowledge the incredible work carried out by Ian Clayton, who's a lawyer and the lead investigator for Ethical Approach UK. The work that Ian has put in the last 6 months is absolutely incredible. And he and I, in the last month, have put together all of the evidence, and we are going to make it available to you, because it's only right that members of the public see this and understand the ramifications and seriousness of what we've exposed. We've written a letter. That letter has gone to the most senior directorate in the UK. It was dated the 18th of the 11th, 2025. The letter is attached, and it was sent direct to the Lady Chief Justice, Baroness Sue Carr, Secretary of State for Justice David Lammy MP, Attorney General Baron Richard Hermer, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, and the Chair of the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Committee, Simon Hoare MP. It's also been discovered through various FOI requests that Operation Taller was in force, and that was with directives from the National Police Chiefs Council, UK Gold Command, in coordination with the Home Office, to deliberately set about a UK-wide suppression of any reports of crimes relating to COVID or COVID vaccines. There was also a Metropolitan Police criminal investigation lodged at Hammersmith Police Station by lawyers Philip Hyland, Lois Bayliss, Dr. Sam White, and myself. That was in December, on December the 20th, 2021, and that was shut down by Detective Superintendent Tor Garnett and Deputy Assistant Commissioner Jane Connors on the 21st of February 2022. Crime number 6029679/21 refers. This was despite the fact that hundreds of thousands of pieces of evidence were submitted and 400 witness, victim, whistleblower, expert statements that were all ignored, and nobody ever contacted any of the 400 from the Metropolitan Police. That is absolutely shocking. The Met Police said there was no evidence of crime, This is now proven to be a complete lie. Operation Tala shut it down, and every other report that was made to the police by thousands of people to various police stations all over the UK for the last 4 years. In the letter, you will see reference to all of this, and the fact that the statutory obligations the police had to record and investigate these allegations was criminally shut down and ignored. As a result of this, an application for a judicial review was made in 2023 by myself and lawyer Philip Hyland to reopen the crime report and have it fully and transparently investigated. It was refused by the court, and of huge significance, the Metropolitan Police and their lawyers either deliberately or conveniently forgot to mention Operation Tala had shut everything down. They breached the Criminal Procedure and Investigation Act of 1996, national crime recording standards, their own investigation policies, Article 2 of the Human Rights Act, and the Code for Crown Prosecutors. The judge has made a decision where all the relevant and pertinent facts were not provided to him by the Metropolitan Police. The knock-on effect is that thousands of elderly who were murdered in the care homes by the use of midazolam and morphine, that evidence was covered up. Excess deaths from vaccines was also covered up. Millions who were injured from the vaccines, all covered up. The victims had no access for justice, no remedy, no redress, and no government, civil service, regulator, judiciary, or the police have ever been held to account. Very serious offences in public office have been committed by many, perverting the course of justice. Multiple corporate and negligence offences have also been identified. Orders from the top were given for a UK-wide coordinated suppression of the most serious crimes ever committed. It's all now been exposed and laid bare. Every police constable of all rank are complicit by their failures and for following unlawful, unconstitutional orders. Their sworn oath of office of constable means nothing to us now. The judiciary have been supporting the unlawful policing policies. The regulators have been refusing to carry out due diligence. Parliament knowingly continues to allow all of these crimes to be committed, all supported, enforced and facilitated by the police. The police no longer are independent, they are no longer acting without fear or favour, and no longer respect our human rights. This is not hearsay, this is not a conspiracy, this is not far-right propaganda, this is fact and it's truthful. In 3 days' time, we will provide all of the evidence referred to in the letter that we are making public now. This will be by way of a short video and a link. It reveals the harrowing betrayal by the police, the judiciary, the government and the regulators. The thing is, now what? Because our supposed public servants have been caught out. They've ignored the rule of law, the Constitution and their statutory duty of appointment and obligations. Also, His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary issued a damning report in April of 2021 of how the pandemic was policed. That report will also be provided in 3 days' time. In it, it clearly states, and I quote, "The police must be seen to be enforcing criminal law, not to appear to act as the coercive agents of ministers." Basically, we were given requests, guidance and advice. It wasn't law. It was unenforceable. The 6 feet apart, stay at home, wear your masks, close your businesses. In the report, it states this was not law. It was also confirmed in the report and in the House of Lords in June of 2021. In that report from the Lords, and I'm quoting, it states, "Public health advice was incorrectly enforced by police as though it were law." So the police have acted unlawfully and above and beyond their policing role. Anybody who was arrested, fined, imprisoned as a result of the COVID rules, maybe, and this is my opinion, you should be appealing every single sanction unlawfully imposed against you. To all the doctors, nurses, whistleblowers and solicitors who were also investigated, struck off and had sanctions imposed, I would say this evidence is now a route for you all to seek redress and have all of your sanctions overturned. And again, that's my opinion. The authorities lied, covered up crimes, refused, or should I say, were ordered not to investigate, and they all went along with it, very willingly. The truth confirms everything we all know. The only difference now is they can't deny it because it's their evidence, their freedom of information request replies, their public statements they made and submissions to the COVID inquiry. We will provide video 2 and the evidence in 3 days, and of note, none of the 5 that we sent this letter to have even bothered to acknowledge or reply. That's the contempt they have for us, that something so serious, so important, is blatantly ignored. We gave them that 7 days, that time is up, this letter has been made public. Please share this everywhere, share this video, share the link to the letter, read the letter, understand it, and in 3 days we will provide all of the evidence via links that shows and proves everything we've alluded to here is factually correct, the truth, and they cannot deny it anymore. Thank you very much indeed.